To me, it's a judgmental question. And I want to help our listeners to understand that when we ask a why, especially to a kid, I don't know, a lie, blame, or excuse every time you ask why, because it takes us out of the frontal cortex and puts us back here in the animal instinct brain of fight, flight, response, because I don't know the reaction. And so to me, we condition this reaction of why. Let's ask the question, what? What was causing me to react in a certain way? Welcome to Coach Soul, the podcast where we explore therapeutic ways to the best versions of ourselves. I'm your host, Steve Hudgins. I'm a licensed professional counselor dedicated to helping you navigate life's challenges. In each uplifting episode, we'll discuss mental health, relationships, self-care, emotional well-being, and personal growth. Join me and with my co-host, Kenya Evelyn, a therapeutic life coach, where sometimes we'll even welcome special guests to our show that share their experience and expertise. So let's embark on this transformative path together and discover a healthier and happier you. Hey, welcome back to Coach Soul. What a way to end the last show. Sorry. I'm hoping you came back to view this part two, because this is the meat. This is the heart of family here. Yvette, thank you again for joining our show, and thank you for sharing a little bit about your past history, because it plays into a part of what's happening to you and things like that. So here you are. Let's say you're 21. What did you do? Did you go to college? Did you get into a relationship? There's so many questions. I don't want to be an interrogator. So take it away.
Okay. So by the time I was 21, I was a single mom. I ended up going down a path that I didn't anticipate. What I really wanted to do with my life was to go to college. I was into photography, as you can see, some cameras behind me. Loved taking pictures since I was 10. My dad introduced me to my first camera, and I just took off. I was in photo editor in high school. I took lots of pictures in school, and I wanted to go to school to be a photographer. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to do everything. And I remember things. When people tell me something with emotion, I remember it and I don't forget. And I remembered a memory from when I was a child of my grandma, Ophelia. I love her to death, but she told me when I was a kid, and I remember her saying this to other kids too, because she had some money. She said, if any of you guys ever decide to go to college, I will pay for it. And maybe she had had a little too many margaritas that day. I don't know. But the day that the day was coming closer that I was going to graduate, I was getting excited. I was even just planning to go to a community college, not even a fancy college, just a community college to start. And called up my grandma. I said, Grandma, I'm graduating. She's like, I'm so happy for you. And I said, can I have some? You told me like you'd help me with college. Can you help me now? Like, I'm ready. And there was a pause. She said, oh, Mija, Grandma doesn't have the money to send you to college. Why don't you ask Granny? And my heart broke. My heart broke.
So you're believing in this promise a lot, and you're looking to find this rescue, so to speak, to help you, to elevate you into a better position, and you've been let down again. And so I see the impact that it's had on you. You know, when you think about all the stuff that you've gone through, well, bypass this, you had a child by then. Would you say that research is pretty accurate that when a father is not very active in a kid's life, that sometimes the choices that kids make can be hurtful? Would that be accurate?
I think so. And not to say that my dad wasn't in my life, because
Sure.
he was. I mean, he was there at graduation. He was there cheering me on. But a part of me, like, I guess I just grew up with this selfless, like, I don't want to be that taker, like, give me type of person. And so I never asked my dad.
You know, it's impactful. I mean, that's the thing it's not just the absence of the dad, it's the two-parent family that makes a difference in a child's life that comes together. And then when you split it, you get this impact. And we didn't plan this. I'm sorry that I'm wearing my onion cologne that's seething through the cameras, making you cry through the onion cologne here. We didn't plan this. And I wasn't expecting this type of response either. So Yvette, I appreciate you hanging in there and just being able to talk about this impact.
Yeah.
And so you ask grandma, you want to go to college. The impact that I want to look at now is, how did you meet your first husband?
So after a series of failed relationships, constant, like I would date a guy for a year and didn't work out. Or I'd talk to a guy and I'd be like so hopeful and then they wouldn't call me. And I kept thinking something was wrong with me. Like something is so wrong with me. What's wrong with me? And I turned to a friend of mine because I had done things to try to improve my own life by losing weight. I've dealt with a weight issue since I was younger. So I even lost like over 100 pounds. I was on TV. I was in a magazine. I looked great. People said I looked like a model. And I got so much attention everywhere. Like I got hit on, the song Scrub. Guys would lean over their friend's seat and hang out the car yelling for me. But I knew I'm not gonna date that one, but maybe this one. And so I was so hopeful I'd meet somebody that was really intelligent and I'd be like, okay, let me try to be my best person and my best self and maybe they'll want me. And they might talk to me for a couple of times or a couple dates and then they wouldn't call me. And I was like, what's wrong with me? So I thought I did everything right and it's still not working. And so I asked my best friend, who's still my best friend, like we were talking earlier. And I said, hey, Rachel, like, what's wrong with me? And she was like, okay. She's like, I love you. She said, but you do this one thing. And I'm like, what? And she said, every time I'm trying to talk to you, you just like want to say, me too. Like, I've been there. And you get so excited. And she goes, it's not like bad, but maybe like you're just saying things so that they will, I don't know, like you want to be a part of the conversation and you say things that you connect with, but you really don't. She goes, I'll tell you something and then you'll say this. And she goes, but it's not the same thing. And she goes, but I love you. So it doesn't bother me, but maybe it's bothering other people. And I was like, I do that? I said, give me an example because I don't know what you're talking about. And so she gave me an example of her telling me that she was from hill country, right? And she'd like grew up around Marble Falls and like hill country of Texas, and where it's really beautiful. And all I heard her say was country. So I started saying, oh my gosh, when I was a kid, my dad used to take us out to the country and we had so much fun. And like, oh, I just love going to the country and I can't wait to go with you because I was going to go with her and her family. And she was like, right, Yvette, but I'm talking about hill country. And I'm like, I know, I've been to the country. And she's like, so she would just give up. And so she wanted to tell me something, but I was so fast to look for connections that
Yes.
I wasn't really listening. And so I did some self introspection and asked myself, why? Why do I do that?
I want to interject real quick. That's an eye-opening experience, and that is a true friend that sits there and doesn't cheerlead or doesn't try to tell you what you want to hear, but they were able to empathize with you and give you a story. And I want to really highlight that because oftentimes you want to be careful with therapists. You want to be careful with friends that just cheerlead you on or whatnot, but doesn't give you the direction. And so that was a eye-opening experience for you. And that's great. And like you said, I wanted to find a connection. At 8 years old, that connection was broken for you. And with mom being sick, how much were you looking for approval, looking for to make things right? And so this develops into this adulthood. Let's fast forward a little bit more. What happened after that conversation? That did you, instead of asking the why, We often do that. Why? To me, it's a judgmental question. And I want to help our listeners to understand that when we ask a why, especially to a kid, I don't know, a lie, blame, or excuse every time you ask why, because it takes us out of the frontal cortex and puts us back here in the animal instinct brain of fight, flight, response, because I don't know the reaction. And so to me, we condition this reaction of why. Let's ask the question, what? What was causing me to react in a certain way? And we've already revealed that for you. So now, do you find another?
Yeah. So, well, I discovered what it was, and that's what led me to education and to meeting people that I stood with longer. Like my connection started growing longer. So I realized that inside I thought I was stupid. And there's lots of reasons why, but that's how I felt. And so that's why I would jump in, because I wanted people to see that I knew as much as they knew. Because if I was less than, then something's wrong with me and I'm inferior to you. So I want to be on your level. And so I figured that out, discovered that what I wanted, what I truly wanted. And what I wanted was to get educated. I needed that. And then my friend told me, like, it doesn't matter. You are you, and you're smart and you're great. Like, you don't have to have an education to feel better. And I said, no. I want it for me. So she goes, okay. So I got my education, and then I met a guy, and I let him chase me. I stopped chasing them, let him chase me. And we dated for 3 years. But it ended. And after that, I dated again, not for the intention of marriage anymore, but just to have fun. And when that one ended, I was in touch with one of my friends that I had met from back when I was 18. And we found each other online, and we were just friends for 3 years. And he would always listen to me vent, and he was there for me. And so after my last breakup, he said, let's go out for like a drink and talk. And, you can tell me about what happened. So I meet up with him, and it was great because I hadn't seen him like since we were kids, basically. I was 18 when I met him. And so he hugged me. We sat at a table. We started talking. And before you know it, like, he takes my hair and brushes it behind my ear. And he's like, I've been in love with you since the first time I ever met you. And I was like, what? Like, oh my God, this is a movie. Like, this is a movie scene. And so it was incredible. But
there's the but.
There's the but. He was married.
Oh, no. Now you have another heartbreak. It's like sometimes I've said to my own self before coming to a therapist, what did I miss? How did I not see this? And sometimes the answer that I feel is like, when we want something so bad, we get blinded to what we are eating, so to speak. And I can't imagine that impact that's there. So Yvette, for the time of sake, I want to be able to say, hey, did you do any therapy from there?
No.
So here you are, you come from this family, you already have a relationship, you're raising a kid, you're trying to go through all this, you meet a person, they're married, heartbreak after heartbreak. And it's like, what do you do from here? And, you get married again.
To him. I got married to him.
Jaw dropping.
Yeah. And
so I want to really hone in on this, because I don't want haters. Because I tell you what, when you go through such a situation as yours, people don't understand, well, why did you do that, right? Oftentimes we chase the waterfall, so to speak. And there's that time invested. It's 3 years. I mean, I can't imagine what was happening on. In fact, I've got some clients right now that still married, hasn't had the money to afford the divorce, in another relationship where a lot of kids, they have a kid between, and they're breaking it off. And it's a domino effect of, we got to take a pause, folks. And Yvette, you didn't have that pause. So you get married, and we could probably already assume what happens then. And it did. How long were you married this time around?
So this is my first marriage, and I didn't get with him. I want to make one thing clear. I did
Sure.
not get with him that day. I
Okay.
told him, I said, "No, you're married." And he said, "But it's been over for the last 2 years." And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We don't even share a bed. We're not together." He goes, "I just needed a reason to leave." And I was like, "Well, I can't be that. Like, you
Right.
are married." And so we didn't talk for a little while. Okay. We didn't. And he cleared up things. They separated. He came back and told me that they were done. And so some other things happened, and then we ended up getting married. Okay. So but believe me, I didn't look into his eyes and start making out with him. Just, I've loved you. It felt
Right.
great, but I knew better. Like, morally, I could not do that. And, so no, I didn't. We didn't get married immediately. So, but we ended up being together for a total of about 12 years. We were married within those 12. I wouldn't say 100% happily, but we were good for about 8 years, going on 9. Then COVID happened, and it brought so much to the surface.
Oh, for sure. When you have
And
that dynamic of this pandemic happening, it really impacts you. Did you have children with him?
one.
Okay. So all this happens, and I want to fast forward, but I fell into the trap, so to speak, which makes it great because you had this cliffhanger, you drew me in, and then bam, it's like, it's not the way you thought, Steve. And so thank you very much for bringing this out, because this is what happens to life. It's life. Things happen, and I don't like it because as a faith-based person, I tell my clients that when you think about that situation one to another, I don't like the word sin because it's a God term. It's a judgmental term. And people that come to me, I say, you know what? I'd much rather us talk about humanity. I share a little bit about stuff because, like, for example, you opened up with, hey, I like cameras. I love photography. I was a photo editor. Guess what I did? I was the yearbook editor. I did photographs. I did everything in high school as well, wrote newspapers and things of that nature. And so there's that commonality. And that enriches the relationship that's there to say, you're a human being? Oh, yeah. And I think if we could stop hating on each other, just because we make choices and decisions may not be the same ones, but we make different ones.
Yeah.
It's about what ways can we have empathy for one another to say, oh my gosh, I can't imagine the path that you walk down, Yvette, but you're not alone. I'm here to walk with you. So all this happens. I want to fast forward because we talked off mic that you got your master's in sociology, your teaching and things of that nature. The last 10 minutes we have, I really want to hone in on you and I met through mutual parties on LinkedIn. And what brought you to picking up my book piece by piece, my blended experience of a mosaic family? What got you to kind of pick this up?
So, first of all, the price. There was a price drop, and so when I saw sale, I love sales, and I was like, okay, there's a sale in this book. Let me see what it's about. So then when I saw that it talked about blended families and mosaic and kind of read a little bit, I said, you know what? That's me. That's me. I can connect because I've been through it. And so I was interested. And then I think I listened to one of the times you went on a live stream, and I was eating every word. I was like, whoa, this guy has something to say. And I loved it. Like, I loved hearing you talk because for the most part, when people are just educated, okay, because anybody can be smart, anyone can get an education. I see it all the time. But when you have smart and heart, and you have experience, and you're not afraid, and you're transparent, that's what makes you so valuable as a human being because you're here to help all of us. You're not in it for yourself.
I appreciate that. I want to be able to say, hey, you're in this game, but you're not alone. And so I try to write with a perception that I'm the coach, that I'm coaching you in this game. Hello, Coach Soul, the podcast. That's the reason why I did it, because I'm coaching souls, so to speak. I coached your soul so that you're able to walk away. But you're in a blended family now, and you pick up this book and you start reading it. What was a good dynamic that helped you understand your own situation? Because research shows that if you don't work on your childhood trauma, it gets into your first trauma of your marriage, it breaks, and all this is now being into your blended family, and then you divorce, and now you're in your current marriage again. What is the impact, or what are you noticing that has helped you?
I think for the most part, patterns, because and just the way I'm a visual person. When I learn something, like I have to see it visually. I have to use it with my hands. I have to be able to visualize it. And if I can't picture it, then it's really hard for me to learn if I can't picture it and apply it. Otherwise, it's fluff. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not interested. I'll put the book down. But when I was reading your book and applying it to my life, it clicked, it registered, it made sense. My last blended family that I was married into with my ex-husband, he had 2 children, and then I had my single child. So we had 3 that came together. And I learned a lot in that marriage that I thought, like, by learning everything that I learned there, that I've used what I've learned to apply it to my new blended family. So my current husband has 4 children. So then I also have my 1 child, so that's 5. Plus I carried on my stepchildren from my last marriage. Unfortunately, I did lose one of them to COVID. One of them passed away. Thank you. To COVID in 2021. She was a rock. This girl loved me like so much.
You've had so much
She called me mama.
Yeah.
And losing her was hard. Thankfully, I have her sister, Cheyenne, which is my other stepdaughter from my previous marriage. And she loves me too. So I'm so grateful. And I like to change cycles because that wasn't the case in my blended family growing up. Very different. Growing up, I never stayed in touch with my stepsister, and we didn't have a good bond. Even though my dad stayed with her mom, we clicked a little bit and played as kids, but our bond was just never strong. And I wasn't strong with my stepmom until she was dying. That's the only time she grew to actually love me and treat me like more, was when she was dying, and we connected and we bonded. And so I knew, like, in my blended family, I was not going to let that happen. So I was best friends. I'm still friends with my husband's ex-wife, my ex-husband's ex-wife. We bonded. She came to everything. We were both going to parent meetings together. I bonded with this woman. We were close. Now I've carried that into my current marriage. And, I'm not besties with my current husband's ex, but we talk. We're fine. We've met up. We are on Facebook together. I share pictures of the kids with her. So I've repeated that positive part that I've learned from childhood. So I'm not one that goes through something and repeats cycles. I like to break them.
That's the whole reason why I write, is what ways can we break the patterns of toxicity? I talk about even my own books. The recent book that has come out is The Family Mask. And when I think about the family mask, it's what did we learn in childhood? Just like you're talking about, I was the caretaker, I was the peacemaker, I was the messenger, and all these things, the different masks that has carried on to adulthood. And now you're in this current marriage, and it's like, okay, you've been through so much. How are you doing this? And so, within the 3 minutes that we have left, I really am appreciative of the bravery that you have exhibited here, transparency, being on the show. We talked a little bit off stage, but this is the first time ever that you and I have met kind of face to face,
Yeah.
seeing each other for the first time and connecting. I mean, it's great that we connect on LinkedIn and so forth. For you, when you meet someone that has these books, what would you say would be the impact that the books are having on you and your current marriage?
I think so far since I've read it, so it's recently that I read the book. I read it while I was on a family trip with my blended family, and so here I am making a memory. We're out at the beach. I'm taking pictures because I still love pictures, so I'm taking pictures of all the kids and just enjoying. Like I really enjoyed every moment of that trip. It was a 17-hour drive. And so we we drove from Texas to Florida, and I think that just that experience, like I knew was helping, but then when I read your book, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, light bulbs, and so I made that connection to how, because I'm all about like, how can I be better today than I was yesterday? What can I improve? And I saw from this marriage, like just unlocking doors and opening up boxes and figuring out how to do things. And so that's how I came up with this idea that we can visualize it together. So I had my kids when we came back from the trip. I got to keep all of them by myself. My husband's at work. And I said, guys, we're going to do something fun today. So I took them all to breakfast. I told them to tell me about their trip on colors. So I love Inside Out. So they're telling me all their emotions based on colors. And then I said, now we're going to go by the pieces of who we are and put them together and make these family mosaics. And so they weren't quite sure what was going on yet. So we go to Hobby Lobby. We pick up all the different, I said, pick out whatever colors you want for your mosaic pieces. And then we're going to make coasters together to learn how to do it. And then each of you is going to pick out whatever item you want, anything you want to stick these things to. And I'm going to get the grout. I'm going to figure out how to do it because I've never done this before. And so we're going to learn. We're going to have a learning experience together. I said, I wish your dad was here, but he's not here. He'll join us later. And so they were like, okay. So they started to get excited about picking out their object. So my daughter picked out a cross. My blended family children, they picked out, like, one of them picked out a little box that opens. Another one picked out a little book thing that opens. And then another one picked out an initial J for his name. And so I was looking at all of them and I was like, now it's my turn. Like, I need to pick out something. And so I thought about it and I said, you know what? I'm going to do an L for Leal because now I'm in the Leal family. And so I'm going to put mine together. So I got this really big L. I thought about putting it behind me and then I totally forgot. My dog over here is biting my hand over and over. But I have it over there. Maybe the next show I'll bring it out and show you guys. But I did a whole mosaic with an L and put it all together. And then the whole time I referenced things that you mentioned in the book, and talking about the different parts of us and how we all come together and how we're now making this beautiful masterpiece of our family. And then I had speaking moments. I had quiet moments. It didn't go like 100% right away. Like, my daughter had some meltdowns, in which I'm helping her regulate her emotions. And so we had to walk away. She had to calm down. She came back. Everything was great again. So things don't always go like according to plan, but that's okay. We adjust. And by the end of it, like, they were all telling each other, I love you, and hugging each other. And that is
So
the first.
you
We've
had a
never done that
bonding.
before.
That's a bonding experience.
Yes.
And I'm honored that you not only read the book, but took it to another higher step of being able to take some pieces and bond, right? And so what a great way to connect the bond of an animal to an owner. There's that love that's always there, unconditional, by an animal.
Yeah.
but to take the experience to do what you're doing and bonding your Mosaic family, what a great privilege. And Yvette, we're running out of time, unfortunately. We can continue on and on because you've had some great experiences of what you have taken this into your school system and working with these kids, and they're being impacted by what you're doing. And so you never know the impact you have on someone. And that's where I say, you know what? Let's be able to be kind to one another. And so, as I always say, take care and God bless. Yvette, thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on Coach Soul. As we wrap up, we want to remind our listeners of a few key points. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content shared here is based on professional opinion but may not apply to everyone's situation. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your mental health care. If you're in a crisis, please seek immediate professional help or contact a crisis hotline. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapist-client relationship. For personal advice, please consult with your licensed mental health professional in your area. Remember, your mental health journey is unique. While we hope this information is helpful, it is crucial to work directly with the qualified personnel for your specific needs. Thank you again for tuning in to Coach Soul, and we'll see you next time.